The Supreme Court heard arguments in a case that could impact hundreds of defendants in the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, including a case against former President Trump. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Simone D'Alba.
And I'm Lorenzo Hall. So at issue here is an obstruction law that came out of the Enron scandal in the early 2000s. The government has been using it to charge Capitol riot defendants with felony obstruction. So get this, so far, 353 people have been charged with obstruction of an official proceeding. 119 of those have already been sentenced. So depending on how the justices rule in this case, all of those convictions could be thrown out. The U.S. Supreme Court is considering whether federal prosecutors correctly charged more than 350 people at the January 6th Capitol riot with felony obstruction of an official proceeding. That includes former Harrisburg, Pennsylvania police officer Jordan Fischer, who petitioned the high court. His lawyer argued the government is using the obstruction statute as a dragnet.
Until the January 6th prosecutions, Section 1512C2, the otherwise provision, had never been used to prosecute anything other than evidence tampering.
The U.S. Solicitor General told the court there is no question Fischer and other defendants obstructed the process to count electoral votes.
Yes, he obstructed that official proceeding. The terms of the statute unambiguously encompass his conduct.
Justices probed the scope of the statute and if it could be used to criminalize other types of conduct.
Would a sit-in that disrupts a trial or access to a federal courthouse qualify? Would a heckler in today's audience qualify, or at the State of the Union address? Would pulling a fire alarm before a vote qualify for 20 years in federal prison?
More than 100 January 6th rioters were convicted under this law. If the court sides with Fischer, it could lead to new trials or lighter sentences. Former President Donald Trump faces the same obstruction charge in Special Counsel Jack Smith's upcoming election subversion case. Now, WUSA 9 investigative reporter Jordan Fischer has been covering these cases for years now and was in the courtroom for today's arguments.
That's right. And Jordan, we know the Justice Department, really has a lot on the line here with this decision. Has it indicated what would happen to these cases if the court rules against it?
Yeah, the Justice Department has maintained before they reiterated today they think these cases are solid, regardless of whether the Supreme Court agrees with them or agrees with the defendant in this case, the plaintiff, and says that this statute is much narrower and it has this evidence-based restriction that they want. We heard the Solicitor General today say again that she believes that the case would hold up, and Special Counsel Jack Smith has said that he believes his case against former President Donald Trump, which also involves this charge, is just as solid as well.
Yeah, so we know that Justice Gorsuch has been talking about this case and how it could affect First Amendment protest in the future. Was that a big concern today?
We heard from the justices on both the left and right wings of the court repeated questions today about what they saw as parallel events, potential future events where this could infringe upon the First Amendment rights of protesters. And it really seemed to be something that they were taking seriously. They seemed to be looking for, as Justice Gorsuch put it, the outer reaches of what their decision could mean. On the other hand, when they looked at the plaintiff's argument, there seemed to be a heavy amount of skepticism. Justice Sonia Sotomayor repeatedly pressed the plaintiff's attorney and questioned them. She brought this analogy to him, comparing it to a sign at a theater and how somebody might be punished. You can listen to what she had to say.
Let me give you an example. There is a sign on the theater. You will be kicked out of the theater if you photograph or record the actors or otherwise disrupt the performance. If you start yelling, I think no one would question that you can be expected to be kicked out under this policy, even though yelling has nothing to do with photograph or recording.
All right, so we know that the arguments are done, but can you give us a roadmap for what exactly might happen next?
Well, the Supreme Court works under their own schedule. We broadly expect to see a decision in June. If the Supreme Court were to come back and side entirely with the government, dozens of cases that are currently on hold could proceed, including Joseph Fischer's case, who's the plaintiff here. He has yet to even go to trial, along with one of his co-defendants whose case was combined into this. Now, if the Supreme Court were to side with Fischer, I think what you're going to see is a rolling set of motions for convictions to be vacated, sentences to be vacated. You're going to see dozens and dozens, if not more than 100 defendants coming back into court to try to unroll this.
Well, especially when the average sentence for those January 6th, some of the people, the convictions have been 26 months in prison, so no doubt there would be bids for new trials.
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
A lot at stake here. Needless to say, a lot of folks will be watching. We know you will be too. Jordan, thank you.
Thank you.